Terastallization changes the type of your Pokemon once per battle. However, this mechanic is normally reserved for main story fights against people like gym leaders or your rival. So I changed that. In this version of Pokemon Violet, every single trainer uses Terastallization, even this girl. My goal is to collect all 18 badges in Paldea and become a champion ranked trainer, all while forcing myself to level up only by battling other students. But that wasn't enough, so I also randomized every Pokemon and their abilities. This means the first battle with Nemona could be anything from a splashing Terra Normal Magikarp to a Terra Water Kyogre with Delta Stream. Oh, and did I mention this is my first Nuzlocke ever? Every randomized Pokemon playthrough starts with the most exciting part, getting your starter. I chose Sprigatito and met Nemona at the beach for our first battle. Remember that Kyogre I was talking about? Yeah. At least I have a legendary of my own to fight with, Ting-Lu. Great. Yeah, the first battle didn't go so hot. In a Nuzlocke, fainted Pokemon can never be used again, but luckily this rule doesn't apply until you get Pokeballs. I made my way up to Pokepath and just look at all these Pokemon. There's nothing quite like a randomizer in the 3D era of Pokemon. Next, I find a suspiciously shaped dragon, which helped me out of a tough spot, and then headed over to fight Arven's Spectrier. He Terastallizes it into the ghost type, but Ting-Lu Sandtomb chips it down no problem. Naming your Pokemon is an important part of a Nuzlocke, a rule meant to form a closer bond between you and your team members, and I forgot to name my Ting-Lu earlier, so everyone say hi to Bull. Go easy on me, it's my first time. Before I catch another team member, I decided to see what a few trainers have. This guy had a shiny Gothorita, and in case you're wondering, here's what it looks like when a random NPC Terastallizes. Gothorita being a psychic type meant this is no problem for Bull, so after a quick stop to the Pokemon Center, I decided to see what the next trainer had. Oh, Terra Dragon, God of the Underworld. Luckily it was low enough level so it didn't know any good moves yet, but by now you can see how wild this playthrough is going to be, and trust me, this is nothing compared to battles later on. In a traditional Nuzlocke, you catch the first Pokemon you encounter on every route, but since multiple Pokemon can appear in Scarlet and Violet, I let myself choose the species number on a route and encounter a Pokemon that way. For this route, I chose 4, so 1, 2, 3, and 4. For this one, I got Alolan Raichu. Like I mentioned, abilities are randomized, and I hit the lottery for this one. This Raichu had Parental Bond, meaning every attack hits twice. Raichu was a little underleveled, so I trained it up on this kid's Hisuian Typhlosion and this guy's Shiny Reller, and with some experience, I challenged Nemona with the perfect counter for her ace. Just kidding, Origin Pulse one-shot Raichu. I send in Bull and admit defeat, but against all odds, he tanks the Origin Pulse and picks up the KO with Sandtomb. A few potions later, I take down Gumi as well, but it was time to say goodbye to our first fallen soldier. I made my way to Mesagoza where I finally got access to a Terra Orb of my own, and after chatting with my friends in the plaza, I unlock Miraidon bike form and head west towards the first gym of the challenge, Cortondo. Trainers along the way had some pretty cool stuff like Terra Fire Volcarona or the Starly that had slow start. But before battling Katie, I grabbed my next encounter, Grimer. Everyone say hi to Jeff. I didn't realize, but he was super overleveled and therefore wouldn't obey me. And as a side note, I'm not going to enforce a hard level cap, but I'll try to keep my Pokemon as close as possible to the levels of my opponents. It's now time for our first gym battle. Katie leads with Magnemite, so I switch in Bull and take it out easily with Sandtomb. She follows up with Shiny Fraxure, which is an awesome shiny by the way, and I set up another Sandtomb. Noting Fraxure moves before me, I opt for a payback next, and just like that, we're on to Katie's ace Pokemon, Kingambit. Luckily it's Terasteel Kingambit, so Bull and Sandtomb carry me to victory once again, grabbing our first badge. Next, I decided to do a few more encounters. For South Province Area 3, I got a Sableye. Well, I saw a Sableye. I don't know why I used Sandtomb on it. I headed further south to South Province Area 5, and my encounter here was a Breloom. I caught it in a nest ball, which was kind of nice. This is One Punch. And you know what else is nice? His ability is Beast Boost, meaning every KO he gets, his attack is boosted. I decided to test it out on this guy and he casually just busts out a Mesprit. Man, this ability is going to be so good. Feeling confident, I wandered over to Cloth, the Stony Cliff Titan, and One Punch was the perfect Pokemon for this. But what happened next was hilarious. In the second phase battle with Arven, he sent out a Tinkatuff that looked like a Shelder and then Terastallized it into the Steel type? I think? So while Terastallization works against me in most battles, I will have the boosted Arven we all deserve during the Titan battles, and with that, our badge counter hits too. With the ability to move faster, I ran past Eternatus and made my way to the town of Artisan. I marveled at its beautiful windmill, gathered up some lost sun flora, and went straight to challenging Brassius. One Punch was the MVP, taking out his Combi, Donphan, and Terabug Nimble. He's doing his best, okay? East of Artisan, I got my East Province Area 1 encounter, Hoppip. With an adamant nature and the ability Slush Rush, I'm not expecting a whole lot from Lil Cotton. I made a quick stop in Levincia to get the fast travel point and figured I might as well get the encounter here as well. I decided on the 5th species to appear. I didn't even know Miraidon can battle in this form, and in my stupidity, I almost lost Lil Cotton right off the bat. I literally threw every Pokeball I had at this lizard, and with one Pokeball left in a dream, well, actually the dream and the Pokeball were kind of one thing, but I caught Miraidon. Everyone say hi to D's. With my team coming together, I faced off against Nemona once again, this time on the battlefield of Levincia. Her team didn't have anything crazy, but that thing scares me. Luckily, Deez dodges 2 Origin Pulses and takes out Kyogre with a Parabolic Charge, and the experience gained let Lil Cotton evolve as well, now sporting the Technician ability. Now it's time for the gym battle with the streamer Iono, and it is actually government mandated that any YouTuber asks you to subscribe at this point in the video. She had a Sandaconda that spammed minimize, which was really annoying, but luckily I got a Leech Seed in early. Iono's ace was Enamorous, so I switched in Jeff to try and get a Toxic off first, but things were looking a bit dicey though as she opted for Terra Flying Enamorous, so Deez came in to secure badge 4. In West Province Area 1, I picked up a Weavile with the Shield Dust ability named Snickers, made my way through the desert, and arrived in Cascarafa. I did the wallet fetch quest and went straight to challenge the 5th badge. Kofu led with Umbreon, which is a strong Pokemon defensively, so I used Leech Seed with Lil Cotton and Chip Away for the KO. Next up was Sandygast, and Bull's Sandtomb made quick work of it. However, Kofu's last Pokemon was a very different story. Shiny Cetitan with Turbo Blaze. I brought in One Punch to set up Leech Seed, and because his grass fighting type would make ice type attacks do neutral damage. It turns out I didn't do my homework, and a super effective Avalanche critical hit takes down one of my strongest team members. I send in Deez and Terastallize into the electric type to get rid of my ice weakness, going for a Parabolic Charge. But Cetitan responds with another Avalanche, taking out my legendary Pokemon. You see, I didn't know Avalanche did more damage if the user was hit before it attacked. To be honest, at this point I felt like I didn't know anything anymore. Maybe I'm not cut out for Nuzlocks. After all, I couldn't even get past the 5th badge. What am I saying? There was always a path to victory, I was just too blind to see it. Avalanche can't increase damage if I never attack. It all starts with a tough decision to say goodbye to Snickers, but his loss will not be in vain as it allows Jeff to come in with full health. Jeff faces down our strongest opponent yet, perseveres the Avalanche and lands a Toxic. Potion after potion, I shamelessly use science to artificially keep Jeff alive until Kofu's Goliath finally falls, granting me my 5th badge. While I was happy to see Lil Cotton evolve, the weight of my mistakes rest heavy on my shoulders as I laid half my team to rest. But we carry on in their honor. I thought getting an encounter in Asado Desert might cheer me up, but a Sand Goose wasn't really what I was hoping for. And for my West Province Area 2 encounter, I got an Alomomola, which has the Full Metal Body ability, meaning its stats can't be lowered. I named him Kayak. Originally, I had only planned to do the Victory Road badges, but I actually needed more trainers to battle, so at this point I decided to do all badges and finish with the champion battle at the Elite Four. I started this by going back to the Dark Team Starbase. The grunt out front had a shiny Ash Pikachu, which was neat, and Giacomo's Terra Ice Beartic was no match for Kayak. That's badge 6. On my way to the Open Sky Titan, I battled this dude with a Lazy Eye and a Mesprit and then climbed the rest of the mountain. This time, Arven brought his Meryl, cosplaying as Knackley, Terastallized it into the Fairy type, and we dealt with Bombardier with ease, unlocking me the ability to traverse across water. This also unlocks more encounters in the Paldean Sea, with my Western Sea encounter being a Quaxley. I named her Daisy. With some extra members, I headed over to the Team Star Fire base, and coincidentally the grunt out front also had a Pikachu, and finishing this battle also gave enough experience to evolve Daisy into a Quaxwell. Kayak soloed Mela's Terra Ice Arctibax and Starmobile with a strong combination of Aqua Ring and Water Pulse Confusion, bringing our badge count up to 8. To prepare for the next Titan fight, I traveled to Levincia so I could get my encounter in East Province Area 3. I got ridiculously lucky with it being none other than Regieleki. I chipped it down with Payback, and just kidding, I killed it, and now that's something I have to live with. Kayak took care of Orthworm's first phase battle, and then Arven carried me for the second battle. All I did was Leech Seed and paralyze Orthworm, while Arven's Terra Water Duat focused on dealing damage. While getting my 9th badge and an improved jump height was great, the real treasure of these Badlands was these. I battled a few trainers before facing off against this Lady's Shiny Pawmot, which really showed me how weak my team is to the fighting and electric type. Like, it can literally hit my entire team for super effective damage. My next encounter was in Tagtree Thicket, and instead of a Tornadus or Kyogre, I got Heracross named Hercules. His ability was color change, so I figured I would try an ability capsule, and it gave him one of the best abilities in the game. Good as gold. I made a quick stop near Medali to get my West Province Area 3 encounter, which is a Noibat, and fun fact, if it wasn't for Herc's new ability, we wouldn't have caught this one. I made my way back to the Poison Team Starbase where I battled the kid up front, and this happened.
Big crit though. No way. No! No!
For some reason, I thought I would survive another attack after Staravia's Endeavor, but I was obviously wrong. Endeavor is a terrifying attack in a Nuzlocke, as it brings your HP down to match your opponents, and if they have a priority move like Quick Attack, they can take you out in the following turn. Angie took Daisy's place, and I headed southwest where I caught Winifred the Serena. I didn't add her to the team yet as she was a bit overleveled, so instead I did some training. Bull took out this girl's Iron Thorns, and I accidentally used Arm Thrust on this shiny Terra Ice Abomasnow with Toxic Debris. Luckily, it was their last Pokemon. I also remembered I could get a low-level encounter near the Pokemon League, which gave us Jim, and he got the ability Aerolate, which turns normal moves into Flying-type moves. Kinda cool. Feeling a bit more ready, I put some held items on my team and challenged Atticus. Dragonair, Roly-Coly, and Yungoos were all easy to take down, but the Navi Starmobile required a little finesse. Kayak's bulky stats and Rocky Helmet item helped chip it down a bit, but when he got low I was worried about switching due to the toxic spikes I laid down. However, it was Bull's time to shine as his immunity ability means he can't be poisoned, and having leftovers meant he could outlast the Starmobile. That's 10 badges down. Again, I grabbed a couple encounters I didn't get yet, like this Shelder from Poco Path and an Uxie from the Inlet Grotto, and while that may sound great, it's nothing compared to my Tinkaton with the Primordial Sea ability. This ability basically gives it an immunity to one of its 2 weaknesses. I named her Kinda Kyogre. And I'm on top of the world, so I went straight to Larry's gym, because I mean, come on, what Pokemon could the exceptional everyman possibly have? Palkia. You could have Palkia. And I am thanking Arceus because if it weren't for Kinda Kyogre with Draining Kiss, I think I would have wiped. He also had an Eevee, and Lil Cotton was the perfect matchup to take out his Great Tusk. But Larry's Palkia wasn't nearly as terrifying as what happened next. I didn't realize the Nemona fight happens right after the gym battle, and I am not ready to battle her. Here goes nothing. She leads Dondozo, so I switch into Lil Cotton, who takes it out with a combo of Stun Spore, Leech Seed, and Bullet Seed. Next comes in Fletchling, setting up Tailwind, which Kayak takes out. Then in comes her Sobble, who uses Rain Dance and has Perish Body. My heart starts pounding as I send in Bull, but realize what's happening too late. Sobble uses U-turn to bring in Kyogre. Everything Nemona had done up to this point was calculated to boost her ace as much as possible. Lil Cotton is the only Pokemon capable of some damage here, but Ice Beam takes it out in a second. Kayak would resist Kyogre's moves but can't get enough damage output to get the KO. Okay, it's time for a gamble. In comes Navi as a sacrifice to heal up Lil Cotton in hopes of surviving one hit. She gets the Leech Seed in but goes down to the quad effective Ice Beam and I start crumbling. I bring in Herc to try and chip down a bit, but Muddy Water takes him down in one hit as well. What do I do? Kayak can't do damage, Kinda Kyogre just makes real Kyogre even stronger, and Bull is weak to all the attacks. Just like all those battles ago, I trust in my partner and bring in Bull. I go for Sand Tomb and Terastallize him into the Dark type to get rid of his weakness. I'm sorry I let you down, buddy. And here I was kicking myself because again, the answer was so obvious. I had a Leech Seed set up. Why did I not just go into Kayak to resist the attacks? What's done is done though, and while it hurts, my next encounter was really fitting. A Gengar with the Perish Body ability. I named him Reaper. With a new team assembled, I began my ascent of Glaciata Mountain. I battled trainers on the way up to train, and Jeff finally evolved into a Muck. I always find it funny when people say that Game Freak's Pokemon names are lazy nowadays, when Pokemon like Ekans, Arbok, and Muck are literally just words spelt backwards. I made my way to Monte Nevero, and before I could battle Moist Critical, I had to go through this chick with literal God on her team. Very thankful she went for the Terra Normal on Gumshoes. And for anyone wondering, Charlie had a shiny Diglett and Shelder. I feel like he was trying to say something here, but I'm not quite sure what. The gym leader battle was pretty straightforward, except for Rhyme's ace Pokemon, Shiny Terrabug Tarantula. I freaking love this little guy. Out in the Asado Desert, I took on the Quaking Earth Titan with Arvin, who brought out his Spupa that only seemed to know Harden, but whatever, I was cool with him tanking for once. Now if there is ever a victory road in this mod, this land bridge up to Alfornada would definitely be it. This dude's ace was a shiny Terra Dragon Origin Form Palkia, and again, thank the gods for Kinda Kyogre. But if that wasn't enough, the literal next trainer had a Terra Dragon Origin Form Dialga with the Supreme Overlord ability. Who are these people and why do they want to hurt me? I nearly lost Kayak, but Kinda Kyogre cleaned up once again. In Alfornada, it was once again time for another rival fight. For once, Nemota had a pretty garbage team compared to the other insane shit she normally runs, but as always, Kyogre was out for blood. My best shot at taking it out was Terra Grass Power Whip from Winifred. She just barely survives the Ice Beam and lands a crucial one-hit KO. This fight would have been very different if I missed. I went to train just outside of town, but that was a mistake because this guy had the shiny Terra Dragon Origin Form Dialga with Supreme Overlord. Seriously, what the f***? Some close calls and 12 energy roots later, I got the KO. With this, I went into the Alfornada gym expecting something crazy, and it was just easy. Badge 14. I decided it was finally time to get my Casseroya Lake encounter, as the next challenges would start reaching the level 50 mark, and I couldn't have asked for a better Pokemon than Zapdos. It was tough getting its health down due to Roost, but with only a handful of Pokeballs, I added Sesame to my team. Despite earlier setbacks, I felt like my team was better than ever, so I headed straight on to the final gym leader, Grusha. But they were hiding a secret I never could have expected. Grusha led with Bellybolt and I led with Jeff. We both had the same idea of playing the long game, so I decided to open with Toxic as he sets up with the electric terrain. Bellybolt then gets the Discharge Paralysis, and then I get scared. Bellybolt has the Wonder Guard ability, meaning only super effective moves can damage it, and I don't have a single member on my team capable of super effective damage on an electric type. But I was extremely lucky as Jeff's Toxic would give me a way out. By switching members in, I managed to chip Bellybolt down without losing any Pokemon, and the rest was honestly super easy. And with that, I had bested all the gym leaders in Paldea, but the worst is yet to come. My Socarrot Trail encounter was a Stonejourner, which made me sad because I realized this could have been a Mew, but there was nothing to be sad about really because look at my North Province Area 3 encounter. As I found out, this Spectrier had the Limber ability. Not only that, a strong Shadow Ball and Takedown to damage itself meant this was kind of a tricky encounter. Luckily, I could count on Jeff to tank while I threw over 30 Pokeballs. Now this is starting to look more like a champion ranked team. And just like we practiced, Jeff helped me take on Ortega's Spectrier, along with the Rookbus Starmobile. From here, I decided it would be a good time to finish off the last Titan Pokemon, the False Dragon Titan. With a Zapdos, the first two phases were pretty easy, but I made an amazing discovery for the final phase against Tatsugiri. I didn't realize all this time I could actually Terastallize alongside Arvid. So in a triumphant final battle together, we joined forces of Teddy Ursa Greedent Thing and Kinda Kyogre to obliterate our final foe. And with that, one final badge remains, the Fighting Type Team Star Squad. I caught a Litleo which evolved into an Embor from my North Province Area 1 encounter, but it just didn't stand out compared to the other members. My North Province Area 2 encounter was interesting though. I got a Swablu which I evolved into Altaria. It originally had Snow Warning as its ability, which wasn't going to cut it, so an ability capsule gave it Quick Feet, which boosts its speed with a status condition. I came up with a build which I thought was kind of cool. Since the Terra type was normal, I could use Facade to hit super fast and hard if Altaria ever developed a status condition. I battled some trainers here to level up the team a bit, and if I had a nickel for every time a legendary horse of mine died, I would have 3 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happened thrice. With Reaper back on the team, I charged into my last badge of the challenge. Sesame made quick work of Ares' shiny fortress, and while Kinda Kyogre did some good damage on Frostlass, both her and Jeff ended up with burns, meaning their attacks were cut in half. But the rest wasn't too bad, and Gary put in work against the Calf Starmobile. With all badges acquired, the time had finally come to face the greatest challenge yet, defeating the Elite Four and becoming a champion-ranked trainer. My first battle was with Rika, and they come out swinging with a Heatran. I led with Reaper who had a Focus Sash, which meant I could get a Perish Song off. Predicting a Lava Plume to come out, I switched into Kinda Kyogre, but Rika covers that with a super effective Earth Power. However, Fake Out lets me stall an extra turn to take the Perish count down to 0. Greavard, Meowth, Bombardier, and Terra Electric Pikachu were all pretty simple from here, especially since I had Toxic Spike set up. Hoppy is up next, and I'm feeling pretty safe with my Focus Sash in front of her Honchkrow, so I set up Toxic Spikes again, but she reads this by setting up herself with a Nasty Plot. I opt for a Perish Song next to make sure she can't sweep if things go wrong. Kinda Kyogre comes in with a Fake Out again and tanks until the Perish count hits 0. Again, Hoppy's Finizen, Shiny Espeon, Surskit, and Quilladin were all easy to clean up. But in comes Larry and he follows up with another strong lead, Scizor. And it's deja vu from the first round as I lay down Toxic Spikes and Larry sets up with a Swords Dance. I panic Perish Song again and switch out to Kayak to resist the attacks, but an X-Scissor nearly takes him out. Amoonguss comes in, so I bring in Gary. Brave Bird does some good damage and Dragon Pulse picks up the KO when he wakes up. Cubchoo, Sandile, and Larry's Spoink went down quickly after. And Hassel, the final of the Elite Four, starts out with Weird Ear. Perish Song into Focus Sash once again, and Jeff comes in to tank for the KO. Hassel sends in Palafin, but luckily it's in 0 form, so it's an easy KO for Sesame. Next up is Regieleki, who just uses Magnet Rise and then Lock On. Really thought he was gonna cook here. Shiny Gulpin was actually kind of scary because it had Pain Split, making me wary of my next attack not being a KO, but Gary finishes the job. Shiny Galarian Slowpoke goes down shortly after too. And it's finally time for the battle that will make or break my first Nuzlocke ever. Gita opens with Camera Up, so I opt to bring in Kayak. She tries to set up again with Curse, but Kayak's Liquidation hits hard, landing a one-hit KO. Jeff comes in to face off against Lurantis, who goes down to a couple gunk shots. Gita then sends in Donphan and spams Scary Face, but Full Metal Body means Kayak breezes through this unscathed. Morgram is next, and Gunk Shot gets the one-shot. I'm really glad I gave Jeff the Wide Lens item before all of this. Litleo is an easy one-hit as well, and it's now on to Gita's ace, Shiny Wo-Chien. Predicting a Dark Terra type, I go for a Moonblast with Gary, but the Grass Terra type means I hardly do anything at all, as Gita follows up with Ruination, halving my HP. I take a risk and go for a Brave Bird next, but it isn't enough as Foul Play KOs Gary. But in comes Sesame, and with a Drill Peck, I had won. I survived my first Nuzlocke ever and became a champion. And at first I thought this is a really anticlimactic way to end this challenge. But I realized this ending is exactly what makes a randomized Nuzlocke so special. A playthrough like this isn't about being the best or even beating the final boss. The real treasure of Area 0 was the friends we made along the way. The fun comes from building up an unconventional team you grow fond of and overcoming whatever obstacles might be thrown at you. Oh, and letting all your coolest, strongest, and favorite Pokemon all die.